Hey Sprocketeers, welcome to the results video for the special prequel round of the Teabag Tank Design Contest. What? No, I'm not talking about pre-bag. No, that's completely different. Why are we even bringing it up? This is Teabag Round 0. Yes. Crumbs, this video took a long while in coming, didn't it? Yeah, sorry about that. I had a few setbacks, I'm afraid, like realizing I did all the mobility testing in the wrong game version and having to start over, which will really kill your motivation for a project, I can tell you. And then everyone in the household got sick, passed the bug around, and that was rubbish too. So I'm afraid I hit the wall pretty hard on this one, I'm afraid. And to make matters worse, for this special round I asked you to make multi-turreted interwar abominations for me. Why do I do this to myself? Have you any idea how hard it is to judge designs that are fundamentally a terrible idea? You have to let go of everything you've learned about the realities and practicalities of tank design and, embrace your 1920s self, which in practice means basically you're in a 9-year-old, I think. Suffice to say anyway, my usual criteria for judging a great tank from a good one just goes out the window with these absolute monstrosities. As ever though, our 16 qualifying entrants have done amazing work and should be proud of what they have achieved. I know these tanks were as confusing and difficult to build as they were to judge. And of course, many thanks as ever to my faithful and long-suffering assistant judges, without whom I would probably never get the judging finished, let alone these videos made. But enough of all that. It's time we got onto the reason you are here, the results. First up, it's the aesthetics category. Funnily enough, the aesthetics category assesses the aesthetics of your vehicles. The 4 subcategories being detail, era appropriateness, national identity, and X factor, which is probably the only blatantly subjective aspect in the whole contest, and is chiefly a measure of whether yours truly thinks your design looks cool and is believable. Our bronze medalists for this category, they being those who share the third highest score, are the TRV M27 Manticore by Blackstone 27, the IMC2 Settler by Enderjed, and the Urchin by... really? Ace W Anchor 2. Silver medals for aesthetics go to the Orthrus by Coaxium, the BFS Village by Rabban Darkward, and the A1E2 by Alij... oh, bollocks, not again. By this person. But the category winner is the Northern Heavy Hitter by Cute Little Boy. Ever the creator of highly detailed and unique looking machines, Cute Little Boy has managed to rein in the obligatory anime Neko-made trap artwork enough that it's not harming the era appropriateness score anymore, and this allows the effort put into the rest of the design to shine. Anyway, as is often the case with aesthetics category winners, they largely speak for themselves. But what the heavy hitter absolutely nails is era appropriateness. This is visually a very convincing stablemate for the A1E1 Independent, which is of course the inspiration and yardstick for this round of the competition. Now the target year of 1928 was intended to allow you to score points for the 1920s and early 1930s design languages, but the 1930s approach proved to be a slippery slope, and many designs which adopted the latter design language tended to shift dangerously close to late 30s or even early war, which I suppose is understandable since I've been drumming that era into your heads for the best part of a year at this point. The heavy hitter, on the other hand, runs the risk of losing era appropriateness score for being slightly too early 20s looking instead, but the dedication shown to hitting almost every 1920s tank design trope imaginable is admirable and captures the spirit of this challenge, so for that it is rewarded. The detail score here benefits not so much from surface intricacies and clutter as it does from careful sculpting. These turrets are beautifully crafted and unique in shape, as are the custom cupolas. The way the turrets are integrated into the hull form is also very visually pleasing. In many respects, the detail subcategory could also be translated as just effort, and in that regard it's hard to top Cute Little Boy's craftsmanship here. All of the above culminates in an outstanding X Factor score as well. The only place the heavy hitter suffers a little is in national identity. While national identity characteristics were still in their infancy in the late 1920s and harder to pin down than in other rounds of Teabag, This design does stray dangerously close to French design language, at least in this iteration. The shape of the track run evokes the V1, and the overall look is as much Shark 2 seat as it is Vickers Independent. The colour chosen certainly isn't helping in this perception. That said, I've not been too harsh on it, for two reasons. Firstly, France's interwar giants would have been a very believable influence on such a project, and secondly because Cute Little Boy also provided us with a non-entry variant which sports the Vickers medium-style turret, which screams interwar British so loudly it serves to mitigate the score of its sibling. I just wish you'd entered this variant instead, Cute Little Boy. Either way, thank you for sharing this beautifully crafted machine with us, and congratulations on this category win. Next category please! It's the Proving Grounds, otherwise known as the Mobility category. Here we take your tanks to the sandbox test area and put them through their paces on the various obstacles. The bronze medalists on the Proving Grounds were the T-TAD by OK Nefariousness 9947, the TM18A Continental by JagJag, the Orthrus by Coaxium, the imaginatively named T-Bag by Frost Ice Fang, and the BFS Village by Rabban Darkward. Silver medals go to the TRV M27 Manticore by Blackstone 27 and the A1E2 by He Who Cannot Be Pronounced. But the winner on the Proving Grounds was none other than the A5 Mark II Bulwark by the Man Gallify. Now, the Mobility category was a surprisingly close and hotly contested category this round, which honestly surprised me. I expected these machines to be too long, heavy and unwieldy for most of it, but you've all clearly been learning a lot about how to set up good running gear and decent transmissions. Consequently, the Bulwark really had its work cut out for it in trying to put itself ahead of the pack, coming only 0.25 total category points ahead of second place. Recent updates have not helped the handling of any of these machines at all, but you can rest assured that they were all tested, eventually, in the version they were created in. And in 0.119x, the Bulwark feels remarkably sprightly for a multi-turreted interwar heavy tank. In addition to responsive handling for its size, courtesy of pre-nerf clutch braking, the Bulwark has impressive acceleration and proved to be thoroughly master of the trenches and made crossing the bumps look easy, all without making mincemeat of the crew too, which is essential for the highest possible scores on these elements. The A5 Mark II was let down slightly by its hill climbing ability, putting in an average performance of 25 degrees. Hill climbing was interesting this round, as many designs had the traction and engine power to climb the slopes, but were too long and inflexible to transition onto the steeper ramps. Having dropped a hill climbing point and being ineligible for the neutral steering point, the Bulwark wasn't shaping up to be any more than a joint second place until it came to the step obstacles, where it served up its party trick as the only entry capable of making it up the 0.75 meter step obstacle. Genuinely remarkable, and enough to put this tank ahead of the pack. Well done, the Man Gallify. As one of our few remaining round 1 veterans, it's good to see you bagging a category win this time. Next up we'll cover, the sales pitches. The aim of the game with the sales pitch category is to sell your tank, plain and simple. Except it's not that simple because you're not selling the tank to me, you're selling it to the British Army of the time, and that means you need to appeal to their sensibilities. In this case, the sensibilities and priorities of the tank corps in the late 1920s, and well, that means questionable priorities. Bronze medals go to the T-TAD by OK Nefariousness 9947, the N28A Typhon by Ben Vakin, and the A1E2 by... Hold on.
Alleenmanen.
Call me Sherlock. The A5 Mark II Bulwark by the Man Gallify takes the silver medal here, and the category win goes to the Northern Heavy Hitter again by Cute Little Boy. Now the first thing that hits you, about this pitch is the presentation. Now, we've seen amazing Photoshop work in the past, and with realistic looking letters and documents and things like that, and that's not happening here. But instead, the eye is greeted by bright, vibrant, well-framed pictures that really make the tank look good, and all superimposed with the company logo. Now, visually this isn't so in keeping with the period perhaps, but it does sell the tank well. This is a modern advert for a very old tank. That modernity hurts the in-character score somewhat, as do certain choices of tone and wording here and there, such as saying, for an interwar tank, which no one would have said after the war to end all wars. But this pitch presents the tank in such a way that it looks impressive, capable and well designed, and the pictures are eye-catching. The salesmanship here is also very good. The writer comes across as proud of their company's vehicle and convinced it's the best tank for the job, which is the key in itself to being convincing. While we could have had more detail about the submitted variant, the detail score is also well served by a full breakdown of the 3 variants on offer and their strengths, as well as a reasoned argument as to why version 2 is the recommended one for British service. In short then, this would be the perfect pitch, if it could be just a little more period appropriate. Nevertheless, it's exemplary in 3 out of 4 subcategories, and that's enough for the win in sales pitches. Our 4th and final category then is of course specification criteria exceeded, which is at least 6 times easier to say than
alleen mannen.
Quite simply, this category takes the stats of your vehicles and compares them to the requirements in the specification. If you exceed the requirements enough to meet certain thresholds, you'll score more points. Taking bronze in this category, the TTAD by OK Nefariousness 9947 and the A1E2 by
alleen mannen.
Silver medals go to the Northern Heavy Hitter by Cute Little Boy and the A5 Mark II Bulwark by the man Gallify. But the category win was clinched by the Orthrus by Coaxium. Now the Orthrus is something else, my friends. Coaxium, I take my hat off to you. You really have very ably deputized for a temporarily absent Luminous Lily in that oh-so important role of leaving me just scratching my head as to how anyone managed to fit so much inside a tank and yet to keep to the weight and speed limits. I really like the look of this one too, but we already covered that. First off, the Orthrus is not light, nor is it fast. In fact, it's the slowest vehicle to use the mighty 35-litre Armstrong Siddeley engine, and it's the 3rd heaviest design in the competition. However, what points it doesn't pick up for speed or weight it certainly makes up for with over 1,700 litres of fuel, 200 rounds of ammunition for each cannon, and 3,000 rounds for each of the machine guns. It also boasts some of the snappiest gun handling in the contest. Where the Orthrus really shines though, is in managing to have all of that and the toughest overall armour profile by far. There were designs with thicker armour in key places, to be sure, but most in this round, due to their complexity, were sadly riddled with weak spots. The Orthrus, however, presents a uniform minimum of 70mm of armour across the entire front profile, 60 when looked at from the side and 50 from the rear, which is seriously impressive for the era and would have allowed this tank to remain relevant well into the Second World War. It even has some of the thickest roof and belly armour to boot. A seriously impressive and dangerous machine. Well done Coaxium on this well-deserved category win. With our category winners covered, it's time to move on to the runner-up of Teabag Round 0. That prestigious yet frustrating position goes to the BWM8 Hydra by PlusAdd 1211 with a total score of 35.75 out of a possible but intentionally improbable 40. The Blackwatch Hydra is a curious design, born apparently from the morbid fear of not having enough smoke grenade launchers. Be that as it may, it presents a very capable all-rounder that puts on strong showings in every category, just not quite enough to take the win. Highly detailed and with plenty to look at, this is one of those tanks where one enjoys hunting around it to take in all of the little fixtures and features and details. This lends itself to top marks for both detail and X-Factor. It fails to score quite so highly, however, in era appropriateness and national identity, as while it doesn't commit any real sins that would count against it in these subcategories, it also doesn't particularly go out of its way to remind you of British interwar tank design language. Still, it's a very good looking tank, enough for a 9 out of 10 in the aesthetics score. On the proving grounds, the Hydra was extremely impressive, and second only to the category winner. It trades clutch braking for a twin transmission, which gives it the neutral steering point in exchange for handling. But the M8 can match the Bulwark in every other test except the step climb, where it falls 1 point behind, being only capable of the standard 0.5 metre obstacle. The Hydra's sales pitch was actually on par with the category winner, boasting very good salesmanship and graphics presentation, and excellent depth and detail. Sadly, it failed to pick up as many points for being in character, where it was merely good, but not remarkable in any way. Still, a very strong pitch overall, that really shines in how thorough and detailed it is. And also, it does a good job of selling the tank. The Hydra also puts on a solid performance in the specification criteria exceeded, where it managed an 8 out of 10 score. The Hydra is far lighter than it looks at just over 20 tons. It benefits from a dedicated radio man, over 1,400 litres of fuel, an impressive 25 miles an hour top speed, solid frontal armour and plenty of ammo for its cannons. All in all, a very capable machine and a worthy runner-up. You should be proud of this one, Plusad. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Far, far too long for. It is my great privilege, ladies and gentlemen and friends, to present to you your Teabag Round Zero winner. The EMI 01 Britannia by Blubber28. Now, I always play Rule Britannia for the winner of each round of the contest, but never has it been more fitting than for a winner named the Britannia. Right off the bat, the EMI 01 Britannia makes its interwar British tank credentials very clear, thanks to the quintessential form of its turret. Imposingly tall and suitably long, with 4 turrets and 5 guns, the Britannia makes a fitting winner for this round of the contest. Aesthetics-wise, it scores highly, as you can imagine, for national identity, thanks to the turret shape, the track choice, the riveting and the decals, and very highly for era appropriateness too, looking every bit the love child of a T-35 and Vickers medium tank. It's thoroughly interwar. There's plenty of detail too, such as this extensive set of spare wheels and tracks at the back here, and the careful riveting always helps in this regard. It gets an 8 out of 10 for X Factor, as a solid design visually, without breaking the mold particularly. On the proving grounds, the Britannia's size and weight work against it a little, but it's a well-engineered machine nonetheless. It managed a bronze medal score, being surprisingly easy to drive and putting in an excellent performance over the bumps and trenches. It was only average on the hill climbing segment and step obstacle, however, and was somewhat sluggish at accelerating. Nevertheless, this wasn't enough of a setback to offset the stellar performances in other categories. The sales pitch for the Britannia was easily one of the strongest ones submitted in this round of the competition. A classic narrative pitch, and a strong one at that. All the bases are covered well here. In particular, the in-character score and salesmanship on display really shine. There's also a good amount of depth and detail amongst the narrative, and it picks up the obligatory stats table point as well, of course. The photos here are good, nicely framed, and edited into black and white, but they form the weakest aspect of the pitch. We really could just have done with more of them, please. I feel genuinely sorry for Bernard that we have selected his tank as the winner though. I feel he would have so rather that it was somebody else. Finally, in specification criteria exceeded, the Britannia was second only to the category winner. At 30 tons, it doesn't gain many points for weight, but it does take the bonus points for utilising the weaker Liberty engine, and that makes its performance in the mobility category even more impressive when you take it into consideration. Featuring a radio man, 1,200 litres of fuel, adequate armour and an impressive 200 rounds of ammo for each cannon, and over 2,000 rounds for the machine guns. Winning Teabag is not a matter of making a tank which eclipses the competition in any one area. It's about taking the time to round out your weaknesses and putting in a strong offering in each category. You can score category-winning scores on 3 categories, have a tank that looks beautiful, have a knockout sales pitch, and be world-beating on paper, but if your tank can't actually navigate the proving grounds, for example, you'll still end up losing to the tank that scored 2nd and 3rd place scores in each and every category consistently. This is where Blubber28's Britannia comes through. While it may be slightly outshone in most categories by more specialised entries, there are no weak areas to this entry, making it our worthy Teabag Round Zero champion. Congratulations, Blubber28. Before we draw this video to a close, there are 2 more entries deserving of recognition. The first is this round's Best Newcomer Award, which goes to OK Nefariousness 9947 for the TTAD with a total score of 30.75 out of 40. An impressively capable first entry, the TTAD scored a bronze medal on the proving ground, where it would have needed to perform better on the hill climb and step obstacle to pull ahead of the pack. It also took a bronze in specification criteria, where it put in a strong performance marred only by a frontal weak spot, which unfortunately incurred a penalty. Check your armour thoroughly next time, and you'll be chasing down the leaders. As for the sales pitch, my assistant judge had this to say about it. The salesmanship and characterization are excellent, the latter especially so. Unfortunately, the pictures are really lacking here, and the depth and detail is only fair. This pitch does what it does very well, but it doesn't do anything beyond the basics for depth and graphics. Still, there's a lot of potential here for improved pitches in the future. So, well done OK Nefariousness on a very solid first entry, and for grabbing all of those bronze medals. Hopefully you've got some tips now to help you rise even higher in future rounds. You also gain this delightfully tacky Best Newcomer trophy. Please take good care of it, it's only cheap plastic and we do need it back intact to give out next time, thank you. And finally, the honourable mention this round goes to the Urchin Mark 1 by Ace W Anchor 2. Why does this one get the honourable mention? Because it embraces the multi-turret, multi-gun aspect of this challenge to the absolute fullest. This is multi-turreted heavy tank turned up to 11. No other tank came close to this much Dakka. 8 turrets and 9 guns is just... well, it's not going to help you in the performance categories, but it's definitely worth a mention. And with that, Teabag Round 0 draws to a close, and so does this video. Again, I'm so sorry you had to wait so long for it. I hope you enjoyed it now it's here. Do give it a thumbs up if you did, maybe leave a comment. Every bit of positive feedback does wonders for the morale. And if you want to make sure you get to take part in the next round of Teabag, do consider subscribing so you don't miss anything. But now it's high time I shut up and let you get on with your day. So until next time, take care out there.